There is a bottle in the door of the cold box tonight with the word teriyaki on the label. Thick and dark and sweet, and it costs more than the chicken you will pour it on. Nearly every kitchen outside this country has one, and a good many inside it now, and folks shake it over the pan and call it teriyaki, and nobody has ever once asked what that word means. I will tell you. It is 2 words. Teri is the shine, yaki is the grilling. That is all it has ever meant, shine grilled. It is not the name of a sauce, it never was. It is the name of a shine, and a shine cannot be bottled. A shine is something that happens in a pan, and that is the whole of tonight. Once you understand that teriyaki is not a thing you pour on, but a thing that happens, you will never buy that bottle again, and you will make chicken with a deep lacquered gloss on it that no bottle has ever produced, out of 4 things, in one pan, for the price of a coffee. Now here is what this dish truly is at the bottom of it, and I want you to see it plain before we cook. A piece of chicken cooks in a dry pan until its own fat comes out and fries its own skin crisp. Then a little soy and a little sweet go into that same pan, and you boil it down hard while spooning it over, and as the water leaves, the sugar and the soy tighten and cling and turn to a glaze, and the chicken comes out gleaming as if it were polished. That is it. There is no sauce. The sauce is the pan. The shine is made in the last 90 seconds, out of nothing. 1 chicken thigh, soy, mirin, sake, sugar, a spoon of each, no oil, for the chicken brings its own. That is the whole list, and those 4 bottles will make this dish 100 more times before they run out. There is nothing hard in it. Not one difficult thing. It asks 10 minutes and a little knowing, and I will give you both. Let me show you, step by step. I want to tell you why my mother made this, and it took me until I had my own children to understand it. We were not people who had chicken often. When we did, it was 1 piece for the lot of us, cut up small. She could have boiled it or put it in the soup, and it would have fed us exactly as well and cost exactly the same. But she did not. She stood over that pan and spooned the sauce over it again and again, 100 times, until it gleamed, and she brought it to the table shining. I thought when I was small that this was for the taste. Only years later did I understand it was not. It was for the eye. A plain piece of chicken arrives at the table, and it is a Tuesday. A piece of chicken arrives gleaming dark and catching the light, and the children go quiet, and it is an occasion. She made it shine because we were poor. The shine was free, and the shine was what made a small thing look like a feast. That is a thing worth carrying. The old kitchens knew what restaurants charge a great deal for now, that people eat with their eyes first, and that a woman with almost nothing can still set down a plate that makes her family feel they have been given something. The shine cost her nothing but 10 minutes of spooning. It bought her a table of quiet, wide-eyed children. That is a very good trade, and she made it every time. Before I go further, I want to say one quick thing. The old ways my family kept, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I have gathered the whole of it into a book, and you will find it at the link below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. Now the chicken. I have told you before that the thigh is the cut, and I tell you again, and this time for a different reason entirely. Boneless thigh, skin on. The skin is not optional here. It is the whole foundation of this dish, and there is nowhere in this pan for flabby skin to hide, for the skin is where the shine goes, and it is the first thing anyone sees. Pat it dry with a cloth, truly dry, both sides, and here is why. A wet surface cannot brown. It can only steam, for the water must all boil away before the skin gets hot enough to color, and by then the meat is gray. A dry surface browns at once. Dry skin browns, wet skin steams, that is the difference, and it costs 5 seconds with a cloth. Then lay it flat and look at it. For a thigh is thick at one end and thin at the other, and cooked as it is, one end goes dry before the other is done. So open it out, and if there is a thick lump of meat, lay your knife flat, cut part way through and fold it open, so the piece is near even thickness, even cooking. A small thing that fixes a problem most folks never work out they have. A little salt on the meat side, not on the skin, for salt draws water up, and we have just spent 5 seconds drying it. Now the pan, and here is the first thing that makes this the one that never fails, and it will sound wrong when I say it. No oil, and a cold pan. You lay that thigh skin side down in a cold, dry pan, then turn the heat on under it low to medium and let it come up slow. Why? Because chicken skin is a layer of fat, and fat must be persuaded out gently. In a slow warming pan, the fat melts out little by little in pools, and the skin sits frying in its own fat and goes thin and crisp and golden. It cooks itself. Drop that same skin into a screaming hot pan, and the outside seizes at once and grips its fat and will not let go, and you get skin burnt on top and rubbery underneath, which is the worst thing in this dish and the reason most people's teriyaki disappoints them. Cold pan, slow heat, crisp skin, and a pan of free fat. Hot pan, seized skin, rubbery underneath. That is the whole of it, and it is decided before you have turned the stove on. And now hold it down, a smaller lid or a plate on top of it, or press it with your spatula the first minute. Because a thigh curls as it cooks, and a curled thigh touches the pan only in the middle, and you get a coin of brown in the center, and pale flabby skin all round the edge. Held flat, every bit touches and every bit goes crisp. Then leave it. Do not move it, do not lift it, do not peek every 30 seconds. 7 or 8 minutes on that skin, low and steady, while the fat comes out and the skin goes deep mahogany. You will hear it change. It starts loud and wet, and goes quieter and finer as the water leaves. When you lift it at last, the skin should be truly brown, near the color of a chestnut, not blonde. Blonde is not done. Be braver here than you think you should be. Now turn it. The other side wants only 2 or 3 minutes, for the meat is near cooked already through the skin side. It needs no color. It needs only to be done. And now, before the sauce, the step folks skip and must not. Pour the fat off. There will be a good deal of it, clear and golden, and here's why it must go. A glaze cannot form in a pan full of fat. The sauce will not tighten and cling. It splits and slides off greasy, and you have a slick pan and a dull piece of chicken and no notion why. So tip the fat out and wipe the pan quickly, leaving the brown bits behind. But do not throw it away. That is rendered chicken fat, the finest cooking fat there is, and it came free with your supper. Into a small jar, into the cold box, and fry your rice in it, or your vegetables, or your eggs tomorrow, and everything it touches will taste of roasted chicken. Nothing is a byproduct. The leavings of one good thing are only the makings of the next. Now the sauce, and this is where the bottle dies. Soy sauce, mirin, sake, sugar, 1 spoon of each. That is the entire recipe, and it has been for a very long time. 1, 1, 1, and 1. You will never look it up again as long as you live. That is what they are selling you in the bottle. Thickened with starch, bulked with water, preserved with things you cannot say. And if you have no sake, use water. No mirin, a little more sugar, and a splash of water. It will still be teriyaki, for teriyaki is not a formula, it is a shine. Now what each is doing, for I will not have you following me blind. The soy is the salt, and the savor, and the color. The sugar is the shine, and I mean that literally, for it is the sugar that thickens to a lacquer and catches the light. The mirin brings its own gentle sweetness and a gloss besides. The sake softens the meat and lifts any heaviness off it. 4 things, 4 jobs, no waste. Now the glaze. This is the second thing that makes it never fail, and it is the whole of the dish, so hear me. The sauce goes into the hot pan around the chicken, and it hisses and bubbles up at once. Now turn the heat up, and do not walk away, and do not stop moving. Tilt the pan and spoon that bubbling sauce up over the chicken, and over it again, and keep doing it. And as you spoon, the water boils off. With every spoonful, the sauce is a little thicker and darker, and clings a little more, and the chicken takes a coat, and another, layer on layer like a lacquer, until it is gleaming and dark and looks like something in a shop window. That is the shine. That is teri. It is not an ingredient. It is a reduction, and it takes 90 seconds. And here is why we do not thicken it with cornstarch. Cornstarch makes a sauce thick, yes, but gluey and cloudy, and it sits on the chicken like a coat that does not fit. A sauce reduced by boiling turns glossy and clear, and clings as if it grew there. Starch sits on. A reduction clings to. One looks like a takeaway, the other looks like a lacquer box. Now, how do you know when to stop? This matters more than anything, so listen. At first the sauce is thin and bubbles small and fast and busy all over. Then, as the water leaves, the bubbles go bigger and slower and lazier, and the whole thing turns syrupy, and when you draw your spoon through it, it leaves a path across the pan that closes over slowly instead of at once. That is the moment. Off the heat. Right then. Here is the honest warning, and I would rather you hear it from me than learn it. That is boiling sugar, and boiling sugar goes from a glaze to a candy to a bitter black ruin in about 20 seconds. There is no long window. Stand there and watch, and take it off the moment it draws a path, and you will get it right every time. Walk away to answer the door and you will get it wrong. 90 seconds of your full attention. That is the entire skill of this dish. Now, let it rest a minute or two on a board, then slice it across into thick strips, and here is a small pleasure, for as you slice, you see the shine along the top and the meat white and juicy beneath. Lay it over hot rice and pour whatever glaze is left in the pan straight over it, all of it, letting it run down into the rice. And the rice under the chicken, soaked in that dark glaze, is the best part of the whole plate. Every child in this country knows it. Mine used to argue over it, and I imagine yours will too. Now, the fork in the road, and folks are loyal to their own. The pan is the modern way, and it is what I have shown you, and it gives that crisp, rendered skin, which is a wonderful thing. But the older way, the way the word comes from, is fire, yaki. Over the coals or under the grill, brushed with that same sauce again and again, each coat drying and setting in the heat before the next goes on, building the lacquer in layers. It has no crisp skin, but it has smoke, and a depth the pan cannot give you. Both are honest, both are old, neither is wrong, and if you have a grill and a summer evening, do it over the fire once and see what you think. Now, keeping it, and here is the best small thrift in the whole video. Make the sauce by the jar, not a spoon of each but a cup of each, mixed in a jar and kept in the cold box, and it keeps for months, for it is salt and sugar and alcohol, and those do not spoil. And then you own teriyaki. Any night you like, a splash from the jar into a hot pan, 90 seconds of spooning, done. On chicken, on fish, on tofu, on mushrooms, on a slice of eggplant. That jar is a foundation, and a kitchen with a foundation in it is never truly stuck for a supper. And the chicken keeps 2 or 3 days and is very good cold, sliced into a lunchbox, which is where a great deal of it always ended up in my house. Now I want to be plain about who profits from you believing teriyaki lives in a bottle. There is a very large business in that bottle. Read it sometime. Water first, most likely, then sugar or syrup, then soy, then starch to fake the thickness, then things to keep it on a shelf 2 years. It is a bottle of thin, sweet salt pretending to be a reduction. And there are the packets, the marinades, the chain restaurant bowls, and everyone stands on the same notion that this is a sauce, a product, a thing to be bought and shaken out. But it was never a sauce. It is a shine. And you cannot bottle a shine any more than you can bottle a fire or a smell. A shine happens between sugar and heat and a person standing there with a spoon, and it can be made nowhere except the pan in front of you 90 seconds before you eat it. Nobody schemed to sell the whole world a bottle of a thing that is not a thing. It is worse than that. It is just a system nobody has to coordinate. A slow drift, where a word traveled further than its meaning did, and the shine got left behind, and the spooning went unpracticed and unpassed down, until a shine any mother could make from 4 bottles in 90 seconds became a product with a label on it. It was never a product. It was a shine, and it was free. The women who fed this country made a plain piece of chicken look like a feast, with nothing but soy and sugar and their own patience, and the children at those tables felt rich. We are only beginning to remember how. Now tell me something down in the comments. When you sit at the counter and they ask, ter or shio, sauce or salt, what do you say? And be honest. Do you quietly judge the person beside you who answers the other way? Folks have very strong feelings on this, and I would dearly love to know where you stand. And tell me this too. What was the dish in your house that came to the table looking like an occasion, even when there was no money for one? Tell me. Next time, I will show you something that may surprise you, which is that those 4 bottles are not a teriyaki sauce at all. Soy, mirin, sake, sugar. They are the foundation under half of everything I cook, and I will prove it by making the dish a young wife in this country was once quietly judged by. Beef and potatoes simmered soft in those same 4 things, and nothing else. One of the most comforting suppers there is, and it costs almost nothing. Next time, the meat and potatoes. Until then, take good care of the ones at your table, and keep a kitchen that knows a shine was never a thing you could buy in a bottle.